Welcome everybody to BENEDICT'S WELL. Welcome from Ireland, where we have a mild morning this morning. Our speaker today, who I'll introduce more after the meditation, Rebecca Bruin, has chosen the reading for today. And it's a very profound reading. I was meditating on it last night, thinking it's a very deep reading. It takes a line from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, and then John Mayne's commentary on that. And I think it goes very deep. And I think her talk after the meditation will also have that depth to it. So the title of the talk, which is linked to the reading, is Beyond the Mirror. Beyond the Mirror. And then the subtitle, Meditation and Being Touched by the Physical World. So we'll start our time of meditation by the opening prayer. O God, come to our aid. O Lord, make haste to help us. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. And this is the reading which starts from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know, even as also I am known. And John Mayne comments on this. The work of meditation is the work of healing, a journey in which we leave behind all dividedness, and leaving the perception of reality as divided, we travel in faith into the unity. The basis of our dividedness is fear. And meditation is the way of discovering infinite love in your own heart that casts out all fear. Ego is essentially the image we have of ourselves. The image of ourselves that we try to project. It is like a prism. The light of reality passing through it is refracted and split up. The pure shaft of light is split into component parts and then deflected from its true course. Meditation leads us to break through that prism, and it reunites us with the pure beam of light. It enables us to enjoy the gift of our being as a whole. Heavenly Father, open our hearts to the silent presence of the Spirit of your Son, and lead us into that mysterious silence where your love is revealed to all who call. Maranatha, Maranatha. Come, Lord Jesus. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Rebecca Bruin, who is a good friend of mine and works. She's a poet, and I've always admired her poetry, which is a published poet, and has a master's in creative writing. And she combines that with the work with movement practice and yoga. She trains yoga teacher, and she's been helping with Bonvo, with setting up the retreat program in Bonvo and helping with the volunteers there. And she spends some time there each year, I think. And most of the time she's in Frome in Somerset, where she is built herself with the help of a friend a wooden wagon, where I think she is going to speak to us from today. And the subject of her talk, as I said, is Beyond the Mirror, Meditation and Being Touched by the Physical World.
Hello, everyone. Can you see and hear me? All right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stefan, for that introduction. There may be moments on this where I need to turn my camera off because I'm going to be reading some stuff off the screen. But I wanted to start this morning with just a little reflective exercise, actually, if you'd be happy to participate with that. So having just meditated together, I wonder if you could just invite you to have a look at the space around you from where you're sitting right now. Just noticing any particular things that stand out to you, familiar space probably. Having a look at the objects in the room, the furniture, the shape and size of the room. And then just close your eyes again. And let the closing of your eyes become an opening into your other senses. So your sense of smell and taste and hearing. Your skin touching the space around you and being touched by the space. Feel how your sense of skin is carried by the natural movement of your breath coming in and out. And then notice how that movement leads you into a sense of your own weight on the chair, on the cushion, or on the floor. Then feel into the uprightness of your spine and what we call the body, collected around that central column. Notice how it feels, what is going on around it as a whole. And senses the internal space of the body. Perhaps you can notice how your breath, weight, and the sense of the body in the space acts as a bridge between your perception of what is inside and what is outside. Then very gently open your eyes and open them slowly and gradually. See if you notice any difference in the way you are looking at the space around you. soften your gaze and see if in this softening you can get a sense of allowing what you see to come towards you, rather than trying to look for something in particular. The next step might be to allow yourself to be touched by what you are looking at. So thank you for that. So I really wanted to explore these two readings really from that perspective of how John Main seems to be pointing towards something about how our sense of ourself and the way that we experience the world around us is being invited into this, what he calls this sense of wholeness. And I wanted to use that exercise as a kind of illustration of how the body itself, in its senses and in its perception and its way of seeing, becomes a container through which that process might happen. So I'm going to use some of my poems, a few poems, and some of my reflections to hopefully take us into an exploration of that. So at this moment, I'm just going to turn the camera off and read a poem to you that I wrote during my recent time at Bonneau. I was there for a couple of weeks in this month. And I was walking in the grounds and went into one of the old barns. It's one of the buildings that hasn't been restored or renovated by the recent building works. It's an old barn that's used by the groundsman, John Christophe. He keeps his tractor in there, and what has been stored is some of the old furniture that was salvaged from the original abbey. And there, propped up against the wall, was this huge mirror, sort of gold gilded framed mirror, covered in a layer of dust. And as I was looking at this mirror, I just thought, God, that is such an extraordinary object, you know, just in its size and its weight and its kind of fading grandeur. And then I noticed that a cat had walked up the side of the mirror, or part of the mirror, and left its paw prints in the dust that was on the mirror. And it was such a beautiful little image of this animal that had left its traces in the dust. And then there were other areas of this mirror where the dust had kind of blown off the surface of the mirror. And through those little gaps, I could see the reflection of what was behind me, which led me to write this poem. And the title of it is called Writing in the Dust, which I'm going to pick up on that theme after the reading of the poem. So it goes. Brahman can be seen as in a mirror, in a pure heart, in the world of the ancestors as in a dream. Knowing the senses to be separate from the self and the sense experience to be fleeting, the wise grieve no more. And that is a quote from the Upanishads. And that day, in a small space, not much bigger than a fingerprint, I saw a whole world moving. I felt the shedding of what I once knew, like years of gathered dust being blown off the face of a mirror. Where the dirt had lifted off the glass, grass was swaying in the January wind behind the beams of the old barn. In there were the shapes of memory, and they were touching each other as if for the first time. These disparate threads, woven together through chaos, then for no apparent reason. I have wanted to wipe this slate clean. No more than that, to climb into it and touch its objects and figures. Yet it seemed every morning I've awoke and a new layer had formed, pushing me back behind the window. But that day, they were moving into place to make pattern and sense, like letters joining to make a word. It's true, I still can't see all the way through. So many things seemingly obscured. The portal I look through, still so fragile. And maybe this is you holding me safe, God. But so often it feels like a restriction to showing you everything I am. I heard it said by an artist of the unknown, if it works, it's out of date. And I can find this hard to swallow. Far within that gap in the dust, I did suddenly see, however, a light trembling like sun on water. It was reaching through the glass as my breath steamed over its surface and then drifted away. It is this light that brings us here and helps me see you and you see me, not through a mirror, but as you are in flesh and body. You and me, free falling out of this rusty frame. But as you are in flesh and body, you and me free falling out of this rusty frame. For now, we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know, even as also I am known. So thank you. So the term writing in the dust, as most of us will know, comes from the story in the Bible about a crowd being gathered around Jesus and then a woman being brought before him who's been caught in adultery. Her accusers gather around her, ready to condemn her with an Old Testament law that said such a person should be stoned to death. And John's record of the event says they were trying to trap Jesus into saying something they could use against him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. This is a beautiful moment of metanoia, and you may know that that is the umbrella theme for the events and retreats that are happening at Bonvo this year. So metanoia being the word that means turning around, and a moment of pause in which the pieces of the story have a chance to change their shape and position. So we can picture the stones being raised, ready to shatter down on the woman. And in this pause, Jesus says, "Let the one who has never done wrong cast the first stone." There's something so touching for me about this finger in the dust, the touching of the ground, the coming into the senses, the embodied action that creates this moment of silence. And then this statement that turns the whole thing around for each of those people to reflect on themselves in the space and how they are inhabiting that moment in time. The place where projections can start to fall away, like I was trying to explore in the poem, of suddenly seeing somebody or something or a situation as it actually is, outside of our mirror projection, beyond our screens. The fragments of ammunition and violence fall from hands, and one by one they walk away, each seeing themselves in this startling invitation. And in this moment of mercy, the woman herself can see her story in a different light. So outside of judgment and accusation, the paradox being that the light of truth is shone into whatever is going on for her, and so the process of transformation. So in this reading by John Main, we could say that he is exploring the practice of meditation as an extension of this pause, this writing in the dust, as an opportunity to change our position in relation to what he calls the ego. And I've actually adapted the reading a little bit, because the original version actually says the ego is a demonic prism, and it was so difficult to get my head around what that word demonic means. So I took it out of the reading, but he's obviously trying to emphasize something there by using that very strong term, that the demonic means a switching around or a splitting or a confusion that doesn't allow things as they actually are to shine in, to come into the perception. And the ego, unintegrated, has the capacity to, I suppose, to enable its circumstances to fragment in such a strong way that he refers to it as demonic. But I actually took that out of the original, out of the reading we had. earlier. So yeah, an opportunity to change our position in relation to the ego. The invitation of Jesus that comes into that space is a chance to take our stones and the shattered parts of ourselves and allow them, instead of being thrown outwards, to perform the inner work of breaking the mirror that keeps us caught in a world of illusion. However, perhaps what really interests me about this passage is that John Main is not making a philosophical or spiritual statement about returning to some original state of innocence. And I suppose many spiritual teachings might imply that that is the kind of journey, that we have to go into some kind of return, and that our original state is pure and innocent. And whether that's true or not, I don't know. But in a way, he's saying much more than that. That our conditioned perception of the world around us is broken up, split into compartments and stories. And we come to our practice with the shattered pieces of this perception. Like the stones lifted in accusation, the broken and divided parts of ourselves. And that meditation, therefore, is a process of changing the lens through which we are looking. A restoration of true-sightedness. A moment when the dust is lifted from the face of the mirror, and we can see ourselves and therefore others as we really are. The act of writing in the dust is a moment where we can allow ourselves to be touched by the physical world. So I've become personally aware recently of my capacity to lock my vision into a single object. Whether that's to do with a point of view about something, a situation where I am attached to a particular outcome, or a projection I might have of myself or someone else. And I suppose it has occurred to me recently that the possibilities of that happening become more and more emphasized when a world is under stress and duress. These fragmentations and polarizations become much more possible in a way. And it can be very hard to navigate that individually and collectively. John Main's invitation to break through this prism of perception can be a scary one. It can seem exposing to have the light of truth shining onto a place where I have been looking through a pair of sunglasses, or, like in the quote, through a glass darkly, or like Narcissus in the Greek myth, transfixed by a particular image of myself, my identity. I wanted to read a poem by another female poet, Sylvia Plath. You know a bit about Sylvia Plath. She was the wife of Ted Hughes, who was a very famous poet. She also became a renowned poet, but probably not until
Becca's frozen, Stefan.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know whether it was my computer or everybody. I was trying to watch everybody's expressions. You all looked so contemplative that I couldn't tell whether you were. Yeah, she seems to she was working from her phone, so might have lost her just as she was giving us a Sylvia Plath poem. But anyway, we come to the end of the. Huh? Junior, you're saying something?
Yes, she's just trying to get back in.
Oh, I see. Give her a chance before I.
She's having trouble.
Yeah, I'll give her just a moment more.
It's not connecting.
No, well, anyway, we've come to the end of the. It's now
Okay.
the end of the hour anyway. But it was a wonderful talk. I'm sorry she's not there for me to thank her. Thank Rebecca for a very deep talk. She's got a great way with language. I've always been a great admirer of Rebecca's way of using language. It's a real gift. So it's fascinating.
Sorry,
just
Stefan,
listening to her.
I am back.
Great.
Do
you want to give us? Oh yeah. Do you want to give us Sylvia's Plath poem?
Yeah, I'm just getting to that now. I'm sorry. I did. That has happened before recently, where I get this notification saying it's overheating. So and just suddenly.
Well, we have about a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read this poem, then I'd say a little bit more, and then end with a poem. So.
Just a few minutes. Yeah. I'd always love more, but we try to keep it quite tight in case people have something to go to. But yes, do go on for a bit. Yeah, we'd love to hear more.
Well, maybe okay.
Maybe end with your poem. We can always look up the Sylvia Plath poem. And
yeah,
end with yours.
I think I'll leave
I think you're even better than Sylvia Plath myself.
If you want to look up that poem, then perhaps people can write this down. It's called Mirror. And it's a genius poem that perhaps illustrates some of what I've been explaining about John Main pointing towards this perception of the self. However, to continue, what the quote of St. Paul is asking of us, however, is to be known face to face in the flesh and beyond the mirror. So I suppose my question is, what might this mean for us in the plethora of narratives we live within today, especially in the world of text messages and social media? John Main says that the key to unlocking our gaze from the screen or the mirror into the reality of our physical incarnation is faith. And he says, leaving the perception of reality as divided, we travel in faith into the unity. And it seems to me that faith hinges on a paradox. That space where, in the pause of Jesus's finger writing in the dust, the completely unexpected happens, the opposite of what the mind has decided. So yeah, I was thinking, as the author of The Cloud of Unknowing says, we travel into the place where we unlearn what we have known in order to know. And again, that's going back to my original poem. And to know what we see. So yeah, it's through this this shedding and this unknowing that we allow ourselves to be known and to know what we see. So I hope this has been a helpful way of maybe looking at the prism that John Main is referring to, and how that refracted light might come into wholeness through our meditation practice, through our embodiment, and the way that we are perceiving what is going on around us. And what seems the turning point of my illustration of writing in the dust is this: Jesus so often poses a question, or he makes a statement that turns the light of awareness back towards ourselves. And that is the gift. So I wanted to just finish with this short poem by the poet Denise Levertov. It's called A Gift. And it's really just to land us in this place of the question that is turned back towards us. Yeah. A gift. Just when you seem to yourself nothing but a flimsy web of questions, given the questions of others to hold in the emptiness of your hands. Songbird eggs that can still hatch if you keep them warm. Butterflies opening and closing themselves in your cupped palms, trusting you not to injure their scintillant fur, their dust. You are given the questions of others as if they were answers to all that you ask. Yes, perhaps this gift is your answer. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I said it would be a deep reflection, and it has. You've taken us beyond the screen into a deep place, and your capacity to put the language in such a beautiful way, in such a profound way, is always an astonishment to me. And you have a real gift there. And thank you for sharing such a meaning as well in what you say. So,
thank you, Stefan.
and
Thank you, everybody.
So the recording of the talk is lovely. It's great to be able to re-listen to these talks as they come out again on YouTube. So you can re-listen to Rebecca's poem and find more in it as we hear it again. So we'll end our time now with the closing prayer. May the divine assistance remain always with us and with our absent brothers and sisters. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Stefan and Rebecca. a big thank you to Rebecca for that beautiful reflection this morning. I shall certainly be listening to it again. So thank you very much indeed. But before we go, it's just time for me to tell you who is talking to us next week. And our speaker next week really needs no introduction. It's Janet Robbins, who we're very used to seeing. She's one of our welcomers. And the title of her talk is Jesus Day Off. And for those of you who don't know, Janet is an oblate living in the UK. She supports those on the Oblate Path and is a member of the International Oblate Council. She spends 1 or 2 days a week offering personal counselling support to a factory community in Scotland. She's been offering this support for the last 12 years since her retirement from working life. So being involved in the factory life helps to keep her grounded in the ordinary daily life. So that's something for us to look forward to, Jesus Day Off. I'll be very interested in that one. So thank you all very much indeed for coming, and I wish you a very good week, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Goodbye and God bless.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Stay safe, everybody.